is hot and heavy right now. Bills are moving quickly. It's hard to even keep track of some of the key legislation because, it's as if the Republican supermajority doesn't want the public to know what's going on, and they move things, they waive the rules so you don't have a chance to take a look at them, and things are going because of clearly political considerations more than policy considerations. I would say that's fair. So what do we got? HB 574, the Elections Reform Bill, that was passed by the House, and this is actually it's a step forward from our current horrible and restrictive voting rules, right? So Kentucky's got some of the worst voting rules in the country, but this bill makes those rules better. Unfortunately, it's a step back from the far more accessible rules we ran elections under during COVID, right? So the kind of no-fault early voting opportunities will be weakened somewhat from where they were under the COVID elections that Secretary of State Adams negotiated with Governor Beshear. But this is a step forward. So that's the HB 574. This is one that Rand Paul had actually testified generally in support of a bunch of things. It was before the bill had even been introduced. So it was kind of a very odd thing. This is part of, I think, this kind of nationwide call for election rules to be kind of further scrutinized for this scam, big huge lie about fraudulent elections, right? So they're trying to crack down on some vote by mail. So this has more restrictive rules about vote by mail than we had under the COVID, as I said. So because our rules were so bad to begin with, I think this is actually a step forward. But yeah, it's a bit nuanced. We also have SB4. Now the SB4 is the Republican version of Breonna's law. So this is not they're calling it Breonna's law, but Breonna's law really is HB21, which is what Attica Scott has been pushing. But because Attica Scott is a Democrat, she's not been able to get the traction for her bill that it's deserved. And so Republicans, did a kind of measured bill on no-knock warrants. It does not ban them completely like Attica Scott's bill does. It is, I think the ACLU has called it an improvement. They are, calling for its passage, but it's not as strong as it could be. So the bill was brought forward by Republican leaders Stivers, Damon Thayer, but it does interestingly have a couple of these Democrats on as co-sponsors. And one of them is Reggie Thomas. The other one is David Yates. And it'd be interesting to hear from Reggie kind of what were the political considerations there on getting on that bill. But Breonna Taylor's mother actually issued a statement. Tamika Palmer said Breonna was an EMT and always wanted to save lives. With the passage of Breonna's law, she will save lives forever. But I do know that there's still a push to get HB21, Representative Scott's bill, moved forward. And I think that there's chances that it might actually get a hearing towards the end of this week. So that would be an issue to bring up if you're, contacting your representatives. SB211, SB211. This is the anti-Breonna Taylor protests bill. So this is a huge problem for free speech. It's going to target peaceful, nonviolent disobedience. It'll also have ramifications on the city's homeless people, because it does these things about no camping, no urban camping, because they're trying to get rid of the encampments, Freedom Square. And that is, clearly a problem. So SB 211 is a real problem for free speech in Kentucky. The House also passed HB91. This is an effort to amend the Kentucky Constitution to explicitly state that there's no right to abortion care in Kentucky. So this is shameful, it's draconian, and it would really pave the way for a total ban in Kentucky if Roe versus Wade is weakened. That's the only way this bill really, kind of goes into place, because Roe versus Wade is, right now the law of the land. But if Roe versus Wade is overturned by this very conservative Supreme Court, then this would go into place to completely shut down all abortions in Kentucky. And this House action came after Representative Rachel Roberts, who's from Campbell County, bravely shared how she was beaten and raped as a 14-year-old. Very powerful personal testimony that she gave to the state legislature, and said that she didn't know if she could have handled the trauma of carrying a rapist baby if she'd become pregnant. And HB91 has no exemptions for rape or incest or life of the parent. So it is a horrible, horrible piece of legislation, and it's moving right now. So I think it's really important that folks get involved and get engaged. Nate, what have you got for that?
Well, it's time for the call, to action. We spared no expenses here. Call to action. We are asking you to call the legislative hotline and make 3 thumbs down requests. So please call 1-800-372-7181. It's 1-800-372-7181. And please ask your senator to oppose HB91, HB312, and SB211. That's HB91, HB312, and SB211. Let's just let them know that there are people out there, their constituents, voters, who don't want them promoting terrible, terrible bills. Thank you.
So which of those horrible bills are you going to lead with when you make your phone call, Nate? Like, which one do you think is the one that's most egregious that you want to make sure when you talk to, again, the nicest humans on the planet are the people who answer the phone there at the legislative contact line. Nicest people on the planet. Call them. You should get to know them. They're so nice. And once you've called once, they'll have your name on file, so they can just pull up everything. It'll be super quick. But which of those horrible bills do you think you're going to lead with there, Nate?
Well, I mean, today I already called for HB312, the one that I was talking about earlier. So, I mean, that's checked off my list. And certainly first thing tomorrow, I'm going to call for HB91 and SB211 and just let them know that I want my senator, Adrienne Southworth, not a very progressive person, but, she is getting to know my opinion pretty quickly. So let her know that I don't want either of those.
Awesome. Kimberly, what about which of this slate of horrible bills is most egregious to you?
All. But since you've asked me to pick one, the HB91, and when they try to bring up these things when it concerns abortion, and please, don't misunderstand me. The disclaimer will always be that, personally, I'm not just going to talk to every young lady or every woman and encourage abortion, okay? But when it comes to someone being raped, incest, medical matters, or you just feel like this is not, I'm not ready, it's not for me, whatever, that woman has to be judged on her decisions like the rest of us. However, it is so wrong for someone to tell you what you can and cannot do when it concerns your own body. And in addition to that, I'd like to say, Aaron, that this will make women just go back to the old way of doing things. We've heard the things that have happened. I had a very good friend of mine whom sister, died in one of those back alley abortions. So, I would say for every time they come with this abortion issue, that we need to come up with, okay, the baby's born. What are you going to do now? Republicans, how are you going to take care of that child? Can you guarantee that child will be adopted, put into a great home? Will that, or will that child go into foster care? Can you guarantee that this child is going to have a productive life and become a productive citizen for society? That's the tug of war that I would hope to see. We need to be stronger in our address about Republicans. What are you going to do with these children once they're born?
100%. Yeah. The pro-life party has a very, very narrow definition of life, right? Let's go ahead and get as many, people, on death row as possible. Let's make sure we crank up, state, capital punishment. They don't seem to have a problem with that. They don't seem to have a problem with, actually making sure there's a social safety net for folks. And, heaven forbid the kid's trans, because they're gonna like think it's great to make fun of them, right? Like there's no kindness in that party. There's no understanding in that party. And I do think that yeah, that's a horrible bill. And I think that's the one that I would lead with as well when I'm making my calls. But I'm gonna say all three of them. You got time. You can do all three. You could do. Those people are so polite on the phone. You could go through all 500 pieces of legislation and give them your opinion and ask them to share your opinion with your senator and your rep, and they would do it, and they wouldn't complain. So I'm just saying, you can do all three. Do all three.